Hello, this is Haiku here for the Modern Horizons 3 Arena Pauper set review, going through the Black Commons now. And we start off with uh, a banger in Accursed Marauder. A very solid edict effect. Being able to dodge the non token is going to be a nice complement to Extract a Confession and really make black the premier color that will keep down hexproof decks. So, a wonderful addition. Um, it's great that black has now a bunch of different options. The other nice part is this really helps with the zombie deck, and then there's also a deck that carries about warrior and other party creature types. So overall, this card is going to slot into a bunch of different archetypes and upgrade several cards there. I think that the 2-drop slot was pretty weak in all of those decks, and so getting a card that's pretty relevant is nice. Breathe Your Last. We now have a better Hero's Downfall in Pauper. Unfortunately, this is just not good enough in Pauper anymore. I think for a 3 mana spell, a removal spell to be relevant, it has to either come with a body, cantrip, or exile. And exile might not even be good enough at this point. There's just so much efficient creatures much lower down on the curve that 3 mana is just a little bit too expensive. Dream Drinker Vampire, 2/1 lifelink is sort of okay in black. The big issue is the 1 toughness for the turn until you adapt it. But then even after you adapt it, having a 3/2 breeding down after you spent 4 mana into it isn't really that impressive either. So I'm going to say that this is very, very unlikely to be playable, maybe as sideboard to give a little bit of life gain to a black deck that might need it. Draw's Claw. Unfortunately, we just have better equipment and better artifacts in for one generic and one black. Just outshone mostly by Tithing Blade, I think is, even though they're not nearly the same card, just in the deck that's going to want an equipment that has 2 rectangles attached to when it comes into play, there's just better options. Eviscerator's Insight. This one I'm not sure about. We have the 1 mana cards that sack a creature by themselves, like Corrupted Conviction and Village Rites. And then at 2 mana, we have Deadly Dispute, and now we just got the other one that makes a map token. The name escapes me right now. So this one, being able to flashback from the graveyard is okay, but the flashback cost is just a little bit too expensive to be relevant. So you can't really use this as a response spell. You would have to, be just kind of sacking your creatures before they get pointed a removal spell at them. And in that situation, I don't really like this. You have to sack a creature, and you have to pay 5 mana to just draw 2 cards. Not really, or artifact. I forgot to mention that you can sack an artifact. But yeah, I think this is just too expensive. I think Deadly Dispute or the map spell is going to be much more relevant. Once you get a little bit of value from these spells, you don't really want to get this like very costly value. You want to be able to play to the board more in those decks. So I don't think they want this kind of card. Fetid Gargantua. This is a really cool card. I like that they changed it now, so where in Modern Horizons they allow whenevers and they have no limit on how many times you can use it. So definitely combo potential, but unfortunately 5 mana for a combo-y card, which right now doesn't have support for the comboing part of it, just for value, not quite there. But I like that there's more Gargantuas in Historic and Vintage Pauper. Gravedig, a play on Grave Digger, but unfortunately, 2 mana for a 2/2 just token isn't good enough. There's too much hate for random tokens that don't do anything, and then returning a creature is just not good enough either. So building your own Grave Digger, but then have the flexibility, is just not good enough. If it could return something other than a creature card, then we might be talking, because then you could kind of play it in like a terror deck because it's a sorcery rather than a creature. Yeah, unfortunately, just not quite there. Kami of Jealous Thirst. Just 3 mana for a 1/3 body is just not where you want to be. There's just too much stuff that removes a 3 toughness creature so easily. So this is not a good finisher for the control decks. It's not good in aggro. So yeah, this does not have a home. Refurbished Familiar is probably one of the best cards of the set. So basically affinity for artifacts, flying, and when it ETBs, you either cause them to discard or you draw yourself. And it's all packaged up as a 2/1. So this is really going to power up affinity. It's going to be an excellent card. But there's going to be some good ways to counter it, specifically basically because it's a 1 toughness and because it's an artifact. Zombie Rat might make it relevant, although Zombie Decks doesn't play any other artifacts right now, and there's no Rat deck. Retrofitted Transmogrant. So this is basically like the skeletons that we've had before, but it comes back as a pretty relevant threat, a 3/3. But I think enough people are playing Exile stuff that a very slow 4 mana 3/3 that can just get you value is unfortunately not where you want to be. Skirless Sentry. We now have a lot of cards actually that have basically the Titan text is what we're calling it, enters the battlefield or attacks. It does something. So as they enter battlefield, you still get some value, and then as they stay in play, they continue to accrue value if they're able to attack. But unfortunately, this is just not statted well enough to come in. If it came in as a 3/4, now we're talking. But a 2/3, just again, 3 toughness is easily answered. So even if you connive in response to the connive, they can just remove the creature. And yeah, it just doesn't do enough elsewhere. Wither and Bloom, very, very nice removal spell. It's going to be interesting to see where this slots in because we do have some excellent 2 mana removal spells in Historic Pauper. Vintage Pauper, basically it's cast down and kind of no other kind of card comes close. But since we don't have access to cast down in Historic Pauper, there's actually a much more interesting deck building decisions between what removal spells you want to play. And this might get it. So Candy Grapple is the kind of the similar one. So Candy Grapple will fit well when you can bargain a lot and you're wanting to bargain a lot. And then this one matters a lot if you care about +1/+1 counters, which when we get to the other cards of the set, we'll go over how good those cards are. And that synergy might push this up to one of the best removal spells. So just solid card. It's going to see play. It just needs the right deck that cares about the +1/+1 counter compared to Candy Grapple, where you're caring about bargaining. So solid addition to the format. So that covers all of the black cards now. I'll be moving on to red next. See ya.